My sister-in-law smirked during my father-in-law's birthday dinner. That necklace on your husband's assistant in Paris looks just like your wedding diamond. My husband just chuckled. She was probably inspired. The table laughed. I didn't. I stood up, pulled a thick envelope from my purse, and placed it in front of him. Since we're sharing secrets, you might as well open this one. The silence was heavy, and that's when they all knew his Paris trip wasn't just business. My name is Chloe. I am sitting at a table built on a foundation of polite, unspoken cruelties, and I'm about to bring it all crashing down. We are at the Caldwell Seaside Estate in Maine. It is my father-in-law, Victor Caldwell's 60th birthday. The dining room is a cavern of dark wood and glass, designed to make you feel simultaneously exposed and swallowed by the massive, churning Atlantic just feet away. The entire Caldwell dynasty is here, radiating the effortless, chilly power that comes from generations of never having to check a price tag. They speak in low, confident tones about sailing regattas and third-quarter projections. Even Carmen, the family's housekeeper for 2 decades, moves with a practiced invisibility, refilling vintage Cabernet without making a single sound. The air is thick with the smell of salt, old money, and the subtle, simmering tension I always feel when I'm trapped in this house. I have done everything right tonight. The seating charts are perfect. The flowers are the exact shade of pale blue Eleanor, my mother-in-law, prefers. My dress is understated, expensive, and boring. Then Brooke, my husband's younger sister, leans back. She swirls her Pinot Grigio, a sharp, bored smile playing on her lips. It is the smile she reserves exclusively for me. "Chloe," she says. Her voice is light, casual, but it slices through the low hum of conversation like a razor. I was just looking at Lila Hart's Instagram story from Paris. That blue diamond necklace she's wearing. It looks exactly like the wedding necklace Eleanor gave you. It's uncanny. Silence does not fall. It crashes. I keep my hands perfectly still in my lap, my nails digging into my palms. I do what I have learned to do in this family. I watch. I observe. I catalog. Across the vast expanse of polished mahogany, my mother-in-law, Eleanor, demonstrates the briefest flicker of annoyance, a tightening around the eyes, a microscopic pinch of her perfect lips. Then, just as quickly, it is gone, smoothed over by the placid mask of the matriarch. A few cousins, the younger ones who still find this sport amusing, snicker into their linen napkins. They smell blood in the water. They are waiting for the entertainment. I turn my head, slowly, to my husband, to Ethan. Ethan, my polished, brilliant, always in control husband, the CEO of Orion Ridge Holdings, does the one thing I was not fully prepared for. He laughs. It is not a big laugh. It is a short, accommodating chuckle, a social gesture meant to diffuse the situation, to align himself with the joke and against me. "Oh, that," he says, waving a dismissive hand, the one wearing his heavy gold signet ring. She was probably just inspired. You know how that goes. The table laughs with him, a polite ripple of shared amusement. They are laughing at the assistant's audacity. Perhaps, but mostly they are laughing at me, the silly, perhaps jealous, wife, the outsider who still does not understand their rules. But I am not laughing. The blood has drained from my face, but I feel a sudden, cold, crystalline focus settling over me. It is a dual betrayal, sharp and public. The man who vowed to protect me is joining the pack that hunts me, and the one singular symbol of acceptance I ever received from his mother, the Caldwell Blue Diamond, the family heirloom, is currently being inspired on another woman's throat, in Paris, on his dime. This is the moment. This is the moment they all expect me to flush with embarrassment, to stammer out a defense, to look down at my plate, or worse, to cry. I will do none of those things. I have been preparing for this dinner for exactly 1 week, and I was not just planning the menu. I stand up. My chair makes a quiet, deliberate, unforgiving scrape against the hardwood floor. Every eye in the room snaps to me. The laughter dies instantly, choked off. I reach into my small, elegant evening bag, the one Ethan bought me last Christmas to fit the part. I pull out an envelope. It is a standard 9 by 12 manila envelope, but it is thick. It is heavy with consequence. I walk the few steps to Ethan's chair at the head of the table. He is still smiling, but the smile is frozen, confused. "Chloe, what are you—" I do not let him finish. I place the envelope directly on his bread plate, covering the embossed Caldwell family crest on the bone china. The sound is a soft, definitive thud. "Since everyone is so curious about Paris," I say, my voice is perfectly level, perfectly calm. It carries easily through the sudden, absolute stillness. "You should open this. Go on, Ethan. Share it with the family." The room is paralyzed. The only sound is the rhythmic, angry crash of the waves against the cliffs outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Even Carmen has stopped moving by the sideboard, a silver water pitcher frozen in her hand. Ethan looks at the envelope, then he looks up at me. The smile is gone, replaced by a dark flush of annoyance. "Chloe, this is not the time," he hisses, keeping his voice low. "Oh, I think it is the perfect time," I reply, just as quietly. "Open it." His eyes drop back to the envelope. He sees what I intended him to see. Printed neatly in the top left corner, it is not my handwriting. It is the stylized logo of Orion Ridge Holdings. He pales, with fingers that are suddenly clumsy. He fumbles with the metal clasp, tearing the paper. He pulls out the contents. It is not one page. It is a sheaf of papers, nearly half an inch thick, all printed in full, sharp color. On top is the screenshot Brooke was referencing, Lila Hart, posing in a plush hotel room, a rainy, unmistakable glimpse of the Eiffel Tower behind her. And there, shining against her skin, is my necklace. The email it was attached to, sent from her corporate account to my personal one, is clearly visible. Ethan's face goes white. He shuffles the page, his hand trembling. Underneath it is a copy of the official Orion Ridge Holdings Human Resources Manual. I had taken the liberty of highlighting Section 4.2, Policy Regarding Fraternization and Dating of Subordinates. He shuffles it again. Faster now. Panicked. The third page is the one that stops his breathing. It is the most recent monthly statement for his corporate American Express Black Card, the one reserved for critical travel, and there, highlighted in bright yellow, is the charge for a signature suite at the Hotel Plaza Athénée for 2 guests, checking in on the exact date his urgent shareholder meeting in Zurich supposedly began. I look around the table. The Snickers are gone. Brooke looks horrified, as if she has just realized she brought a grenade to a dinner party. Eleanor is staring at the platinum card statement in her son's hand, her face carved from ice, and Victor, my father-in-law, has stopped eating entirely, his fork halfway to his mouth, his gaze fixed on his son with a terrifying, cold disappointment. The power in the room has shifted. It has moved from the head of the table, from the laughing husband, and it has settled directly onto me, the weak middle-class wife who was never supposed to fight back. I am the one holding the narrative now, and I have the receipts. I am Chloe Ross. I am 33 years old. 5 years ago, I was one of the sharpest marketing directors at Harborline Creative, running million-dollar campaigns and leading a team of 20. Today, I am officially unemployed, a decision made to better facilitate the Caldwell family image. My full-time job is to be the perfect, appropriate, and utterly invisible wife to Ethan Caldwell. You have to understand the Caldwells to understand the silence at that table. They are not the flashy, loud, new money rich of Los Angeles or Miami. They are old New England money, the kind that whispers. Their power is in their subtlety, in the generational assurance that they will never be questioned. Their homes are tasteful. Their clothes are impeccably tailored but never loud, and their primary social currency is a shared, unspoken judgment. The greatest sin in the Caldwell world is not failure, it is public embarrassment. We do not air our laundry. Eleanor, my mother-in-law, is fond of saying, which is code for, we do not have feelings where others can see them. This dinner, Victor's 60th birthday, was supposed to be my masterpiece of subtlety. I spent the last 7 days orchestrating it. Not just planning, but orchestrating. I personally curated the menu with the caterers, ensuring the scallops were sourced from the specific Maine fishery Victor prefers. I spent 3 hours with the sommelier, debating between 2 vintages of Bordeaux, knowing Victor would taste the difference and judge me for the inferior choice. I personally inspected the floral arrangements this afternoon, making sure they were the exact shade of muted jade green that Eleanor finds restful. Every plate, every napkin, every softly lit candle was a calculated move in my 3-year campaign to prove I belonged, because they have never believed I do. I have been married to Ethan for 3 years, and for 3 years, I have been the family project. I am the middle-class girl from suburban Connecticut, whom Ethan, in a rare lapse of judgment, LOVED, I did not go to the right boarding school. I did not summer in the right places, and my family name carried 0 weight at the yacht club. When Ethan proposed, the family did not object loudly. They simply suffocated me with polite, corrective suggestions. My wardrobe was too bright. My laugh was a little sharp. My career was unnecessary, so I quit. I softened my wardrobe to a palette of beige, navy, and gray. I learned to smile instead of laugh. I learned to host parties where the primary goal was for nothing, absolutely nothing, to be memorable. I was attempting to erase Chloe Ross and become simply Mrs. Ethan Caldwell, and the blue diamond necklace was the only sign I had ever succeeded. Eleanor gave it to me the night before our wedding, in the library of this very house. She snapped open a dark velvet box that smelled of dust and old perfume. The diamond was a deep, icy blue, suspended on a delicate platinum chain. "This is an heirloom," she said, her voice dry as paper. "It is for the women of the Caldwell family. Try not to lose it." It was not a gift. It was a transfer of custody, a provisional acceptance into the dynasty, contingent on good behavior. That necklace became my armor. It was the one piece of me that they had certified as theirs. I wore it to every family function, every charity gala, every sterile dinner party. It was my proof of membership, my shield against their silent judgment. To see that necklace not a copy, not one inspired by, but my necklace on the throat of Lila Hart, in a Paris hotel room paid for by my husband, was not just about infidelity. It was a public, symbolic stripping of my rank. It was Ethan telling me, and telling her, that the one credential I had bled for was now worthless, that the identity I had sacrificed my entire career to build was so flimsy he could just give it away to a 20-something assistant as a party favor. He had been distant. I had told myself it was work. Ethan lives and breathes Orion Ridge Holdings. When he started coming home late, smelling of expensive whiskey and someone else's perfume, he blamed it on the fourth quarter restructuring. He said it so convincingly, with such weary CEO-level authority, that I almost believed him. I wanted to believe him. Then came the praise for Lila. It started subtly. Lila is a miracle worker. She's completely reorganized my schedule. Then it became more specific, more pointed. It's incredible. She anticipates everything. She arranges all my travel plans flawlessly. He was not just praising an efficient employee. He was twisting the knife. He was telling me that this other woman was succeeding in the very arena I was supposed to be managing his life. When he laughed at that table tonight, when Brooke made her cruel joke and my husband laughed with them, I realized the truth. He was not just protecting himself, he was counting on my silence. He believed, after 3 years of molding me into the perfect, quiet, appropriate Caldwell wife, that I was too terrified of making a scene to fight back. He believed I would value the family's image more than my own dignity. He assumed I would sit there, take the humiliation, and cry about it privately, just as I had been trained to do. He was wrong. My decision to bring that envelope was not an impulse. It was a strategy. I could not fight them on their terms. I could not win a battle of subtle insults and quiet judgment, so I chose a different weapon. I chose the truth, printed in color, highlighted in yellow, and delivered in the one place they value above all else, the public forum of their peers. I did not want to have a private, screaming match with Ethan. I wanted to expose him and the hypocrisy of his entire family, in front of the very audience they taught me to fear. This was not just about catching a cheating husband, it was about taking back the narrative. It began exactly 1 week ago. Ethan left on a Tuesday morning at 6. He kissed me goodbye, his lips cool, his jaw already set for business. "This New York meeting is critical," he murmured against my hair. "Then I fly straight to the Zurich branch. I will be back in 2 days, maybe 3. I'm sorry to miss Victor's prep." He was always sorry, and he was always busy. He even sent me a screenshot of his itinerary from the car, a first-class ticket on Delta, Boston to JFK. It seemed transparent. It seemed normal. I texted back, "Safe flight," with a heart emoji, and went upstairs to wake our daughter. The discovery did not happen in a flash of confrontation. It happened, as most modern betrayals do, quietly, through a screen, while I was doing the most mundane task imaginable. It was noon. I was in the kitchen, trying to coax our 3-year-old daughter, Ava, into eating her lunch. She was happily mashing yogurt into her hair, and I was holding a small, airplane-shaped spoon, making engine noises. It was a normal day, sticky and loud in the way only a toddler can make it. My phone buzzed on the granite countertop. I glanced over, expecting a text from the caterer about Victor's party. It was an email. The sender's name made my stomach tighten instantly. Lila Hart. It was not from her personal Gmail. It was from her corporate address, Lila Hart, Orion Ridge, com. The subject line was only 4 words. "Thought you'd love this." My hand, the one holding the yogurt spoon, froze midair. I clicked it open. There was a blue heart emoji in the body of the message, and one attached image. The picture was a mirror selfie. Lila Hart, younger, blonder, and sharper than I was, staring into her phone. She was not in a sterile office. She was in a lavish hotel room, all gilded mirrors and cream-colored classical moldings. Over her shoulder, through a tall, rain-streaked window, the blurred iron lattice of the Eiffel Tower was unmistakable, and on her neck, resting against the hollow of her throat, was the Caldwell blue diamond. My necklace. It was not just the image. It was the audacity, the blue heart, the open taunt. The fact she had sent it from her work email was not a mistake. It was a message. It was a calculated, deliberate declaration of war. She was telling me she was so confident in her position that she did not even need to hide. She was, in fact, logging her transgression using company property. "Mommy? Plain?" Ava giggled, oblivious, banging her fist on the high chair tray. I could not breathe. My heart was not pounding. It felt as if it had been submerged in ice. I put the spoon down, my hand shaking so violently the yogurt splattered. "1 minute, baby." I walked out of the kitchen, down the hall, and into the master bedroom, straight to our walk-in closet. I did not run. I walked, each step heavy and deliberate, as if wading through wet cement. I knelt by the wall safe, spun the combination, and pulled out my jewelry box. It was heavy, dark cherry wood. I opened the lid. The top tray was for earrings, the second for bracelets, the third, lined in dark blue velvet, was for necklaces. There was an empty, custom-fitted indentation where the Caldwell diamond always sat. It was gone. My mind flashed back, instantly, to the night before Ethan left. He had come into the closet while I was getting ready for bed. He'd kissed my shoulder, his voice casual. "You haven't worn the blue diamond in a while, have you? It probably needs a good maintenance check. I can drop it at the jeweler's while I'm in New York." I had thanked him. I had thought it was thoughtful. He did not borrow it for maintenance. He stole it. He stole my one symbol of acceptance in this family, took it from its velvet box, and packed it in his suitcase to impress his assistant. The ice in my chest began to burn. This was not impulsive. This was premeditated. I pulled out my iPad from the bedside table. Months ago, after a paranoid moment of thinking a housekeeper might steal something, I had slipped a tiny AirTag into the false bottom of the jewelry box. I had never actually put one on the necklace itself. I put it in the box it came in, the original, ancient velvet case. I had assumed if anyone stole the necklace, they would take the impressive box. I opened the Find My app. The map loaded. I saw my phone, my iPad, and my keys, all clustered in our house in Maine, and then I saw one other icon, labeled Caldwell Heirloom. It was not at JFK, it was not in Zurich, it was pinging a location directly over the Quai d'Orsay. Its last registered location, 2 hours ago, was Charles de Gaulle Airport, Terminal 2E. The sound in the room was just my own ragged breathing. There was one more place to look, the shared household email account, the one we used for automated billing, landscaping invoices, and school updates. I logged in. My fingers stiff and cold. I searched the inbox for travel. It was not an airline. It was a hotel confirmation. From the Hotel Plaza Athénée. My blood ran cold. This was not some standard business trip hotel. This was a palace. The kind of place you take someone for a honeymoon. I opened the confirmation. Check-in, Tuesday. Check-out, Friday. Room signature, Eiffel Suite. Guest 2. Guest name, Mr. Ethan Caldwell. Second guest, Ms. Lila Hart. He had not even tried to hide her name from the reservation. He had booked it all through the household account, so buried in the endless stream of utility bills and Amazon receipts that he assumed I, the busy, distracted wife and mother, would never see it. It all clicked into place, a horrifying, perfect mosaic of betrayal. This was not a simple, tawdry affair. This was a complex, layered operation. He had lied about his destination. He had stolen a family heirloom, my heirloom, to use as a prop. He was using company funds and family accounts to facilitate it, and he was doing it with a direct subordinate, a flagrant violation of the very corporate ethics policy his own father had written. I stood there in the silent bedroom. I thought about calling him. I thought about screaming, demanding he fly home, throwing his clothes onto the lawn. That is what the old Chloe would have done. But the new Chloe, the Chloe who had survived 3 years in the Caldwell family, did something else. I did not cry. I did not scream. I took a screenshot of the Find My map. I forwarded the hotel confirmation from the household account to my old private email address from my Harborline creative days. I saved Lila's taunting email, with its damning photo and corporate timestamp, as a PDF. I went to the Orion Ridge Holdings public website and downloaded the entire corporate code of conduct. I started a new folder on my secure cloud drive. I named it Paris. Reacting immediately meant a marital argument. He would apologize, gaslight me, blame Lila, blame the stress of the fourth quarter, and it would all be absorbed into the quiet, ugly dysfunction of our marriage. No, I would not react. I would collect. A simple argument gives him a chance to recover. Hard evidence, presented at the right moment, leaves him nowhere to hide. The woman who was the nice, accommodating housewife disappeared the moment I saw that empty velvet indentation in my jewelry box. She was replaced by the woman I used to be, Chloe Ross, marketing director, the one who lived for strategy, data, and flawless execution. My new project was the complete, systematic dismantling of my husband's life. My target audience was the Caldwell family. My product was the undeniable truth, and my launch date was Victor's 60th birthday dinner. I had exactly 1 week. I started with his kingdom, Orion Ridge Holdings, months ago. When Ava had a persistent ear infection, Ethan had given me a password and login to the company's benefits portal. "It's easier if you just handle the insurance," he had said, exasperated by the paperwork. He never imagined I would click on anything else. He never imagined I would remember the password. I logged in. The portal was a sea of corporate blue and bland stock photos of smiling, diverse employees. I bypassed dental plans and 401k contributions and navigated straight to the Internal Resources tab. Tucked at the bottom was the link for Human Resources Directory, It was all there, a library of corporate governance. I downloaded the full 87-page employee handbook. My pulse was steady, my hand clicking the mouse with cool precision. I scrolled past the mission statement and the vacation policy until I found Section 7 Code of Conduct. I read Article 7.3 three times. Relationships with subordinates. It was beautifully, brutally clear. Romantic or sexual involvement between an executive-level employee and any direct subordinate is strictly prohibited. The policy cited inherent power imbalances, potential for perceived favoritism, and significant risk of corporate liability. The consequences were just as clear: immediate disciplinary action, up to and including suspension or termination of employment. I saved the PDF to the Paris folder. This was Pillar 1. The company. Next, I needed to secure Pillar 2. The marriage. I called my best friend, Maya Lopez, from my car, parked at a Starbucks 2 towns over and using a burner app. Maya and I had started at Harborline Creative on the same day. She had left for corporate law at Brightwell Fern just before I'd left to become Mrs. Caldwell. She is lethally smart, fiercely loyal, and has despised the way the Caldwells treated me from day one. "Chloe, what's wrong? You're using the secure line." I laid it out. The Paris lie, the subordinate, the hotel receipt, and finally, the necklace. There was a long silence. When Maya spoke, her voice was stripped of all friendship, replaced by the cold, sharp tone of a lawyer. What? He stole the family heirloom from your safe to give to her. He borrowed it for maintenance, I said, my voice flat. That's theft. Chloe, that is not just infidelity, that is a criminal act. But let's focus. The prenup. That's why I'm calling, I said. I need to know the exact wording of the infidelity clause. His lawyers fought it. I remember, she said, a dark smile in her voice. They called it unromantic and unnecessary. You held firm. Give me 1 hour. She called back in 45 minutes. You are golden, she said. It's Article 4. In the event of marital infidelity, substantiated by evidence and God. Chloe, you have evidence. The standard spousal support settlement is voided and replaced by the enhanced settlement. It specifies a 30% increase in support and full forfeiture of his claim on the Boston condo. My breath hitched. It's ironclad. He signed it. My next step was to neutralize his inevitable defense. That photo is old, or Lila just happened to be in Paris at the same time. I hired a private investigator. Not the white shoe firm the Caldwells used to make their problems disappear, but a smaller, hungrier, mid-level investigator in Portland who specialized in digital forensics and asset tracing. I paid the retainer in cash, using money I had been slowly siphoning from the household account for years, just for a day like this. My instructions were specific. I do not need surveillance. I need data. I need the flight manifests for Air France and Delta for last Tuesday. I need you to confirm 2 names on those manifests, Ethan Caldwell and Lila Hart. And I need you to verify this hotel reservation. He called back in less than 24 hours. Mrs. Ross, it's concrete. Mr. Caldwell and Ms. Hart were both on Air France Flight 337, Boston to Charles de Gaulle. Landing Tuesday at 8 a.m., they were seated together, seats 1A and 1B, first class. He also confirmed Ethan's screenshot of a flight to JFK was a decoy, a simple, easily faked image. He had never been to New York. Finally, I went for the shared American Express Black Card account. The statement was already pending online. I scrolled past the charges for groceries at Whole Foods, Ava's preschool tuition, the club membership, and there it was, a cascade of charges from Paris, the charge from the Hotel Plaza Athénée 5,000, 200 euros, the 2 first-class tickets $14,600, and then, the smaller, more personal insults, a charge from Bateau Mouche, the touristy dinner cruise on the Seine, a charge from a high-end lingerie boutique in the Marais that made my stomach churn, and the final, Killing blow, a charge for €150 at a small, discreet jewelry boutique on the Rue de la Paix, a shop known exclusively for high-end repairs and cleaning. He had taken my necklace, flown it to Paris, and had it professionally polished for her. I printed every single page, the HR policy, highlighted, Maya's email summarizing the prenup clause, the PI's report on the flight manifests, the hotel bill with both their names, the black card statement with the jewelry repair charge circled in red pen, and Lila's original, taunting email with the photo. I stapled the packet together. It was thick, it was undeniable. I slid it into the manila envelope and hid it in the very bottom of my lingerie drawer, beneath silk robes I had not worn since before Ava was born. It was the one place in our entire home Ethan would never, ever look. But I needed one final layer of insurance. Ethan, when cornered, is a cornered animal. He might grab the envelope, tear it to shreds, and accuse me of being hysterical. I needed a copy he could not destroy. I went back to my laptop. I scanned every single page. I composed a new blank email. I addressed it to Eleanor, Caldwell Foundation, org. The subject line was 2 words for safekeeping. I attached the single, damning PDF file. I wrote no message. I did not need to. Then, I clicked the Schedule Send button. I set it to send in exactly 24 hours, which would be 9 p.m. on the night of Victor's party. If the dinner went as planned, I could log in and cancel the email before it sent. But if Ethan tried to destroy my evidence, if he tried to gaslight me or pull me into a private room to silence me, that email would land in my mother-in-law's inbox like a bomb. With the trap set, I began to act. I became the perfect, supportive wife. When Ethan called that night, his voice thick with fake jet lag from Zurich, I was a portrait of sympathy. "You sound exhausted, darling," I cooed. Was the meeting a success? "Brutal," he sighed. "Just brutal. The numbers are a mess. I'll tell you about it when I'm home. I miss you." "We miss you too," I said, and I sent him a photo of Ava asleep in her crib, her stuffed bear clutched in her hand. "My girls," he texted back, with a single red heart emoji. I looked at it until my vision blurred. Then I deleted it. While I played my part, I watched Lila play hers. Her Instagram was a masterpiece of subtle bragging. She posted the view from the hotel window, captioning it, "Waking up in a dream." She posted a picture of a single croissant on a porcelain plate, a much-needed escape. She never showed Ethan's face. She was smart. She was positioning herself not as a mistress, but as the one being courted, the one who was promised. She was trying to steal my life. She had no idea I was about to detonate hers. My goal was now clear. It was not just to have a fight with my husband. It was to consolidate all 3 pillars of his world, his marriage, his family, and his career, and light them on fire, all at the same time. When I put that envelope on the table, he would not be facing a crying wife. He would be facing a breach of contract, a furious mother, and a deeply disappointed, liability-obsessed father who held the company's purse strings. I was not just starting an argument, I was staging a coup. After I'd gathered my evidence, I spent a long time staring at that first, inciting piece of it, Lila's email, the selfie in the Plaza Athénée. My first reaction had been shock. My second, rage. My third, as I sat in the pre-dawn quiet of my kitchen 2 days before the party, was cold. Forensic analysis. I was a marketer. After all, I understood branding, and this picture was a brand statement. It was not a stupid, impulsive snapshot. I looked closer. The lighting was perfect, catching the blue of the diamond and the shine of her professionally blown-out hair. The background was artfully composed, the Eiffel Tower perfectly framed in the rain-streaked window. She was wearing a silk robe that was almost certainly provided by the hotel. Her chin was tilted in that specific way that implies confidence, not just happiness, and the necklace. My necklace was dead center, the unmistakable focal point of the entire composition. This was not a mistake. This was a press release, and Lila Hart was not a fool. She was an adversary, a competitor, and she was, I had to admit, extremely bold. I remembered her clearly from the one and only time I had met her, 6 months ago at the Orion Ridge Holdings annual charity gala. I was standing beside Ethan, playing the part of the supportive, smiling wife. Lila had approached, clipboard in hand, a picture of sleek, blonde efficiency. She had smiled at me, her eyes lingering for just a second too long on the Caldwell blue diamond. "That necklace is exquisite, Mrs. Caldwell," she'd said, her voice bright and professional. So timeless. She knew exactly whose necklace it was. She knew its significance. She had seen it on my neck, in the context of my role as Ethan's wife, under the approving eye of the entire Caldwell clan, and she did not post that photo on her public Instagram story. She did not send it to a friend. She emailed it, from her corporate account, directly to me, his wife. The why became brutally clear. She was not trying to hide. She was trying to provoke. I could practically hear the script Ethan must have fed her. It was the classic, textbook narrative of the cheating, powerful man. "My marriage is a wreck. We're just staying together for the child. My mother can't stand her. Chloe just doesn't fit in." And the most toxic, likely lie. "That necklace. It's just a piece of family jewelry. Eleanor gave it to her out of obligation. It doesn't mean anything. No one would even notice if it was gone." So Lila, ambitious and emboldened by a first-class trip to Paris and a week in a palace hotel, decided to test that theory. She was testing the boundaries. She was dangling the symbol of my acceptance in front of my face to see if I had the power to reclaim it. Her entire strategy was built on a single, flawed assumption that I was the person I pretended to be. She was counting on the Caldwell wife reaction. She expected me to become hysterical, to break down in disorganized, jealous rage. She wanted me to call Ethan in Paris, screaming and crying down the phone. She wanted me to make wild accusations, to throw a tantrum, to prove to him that I was exactly the unstable, emotional, unsuitable wife he had been complaining about. In her screenplay, I would alienate him. He would hang up, annoyed and exhausted by my drama, and turn to her, the sleek, calm, understanding alternative. I would do the dirty work for her. I would push my husband directly into her arms. She would win. It was a good plan, for an amateur. But Lila Hart made two fatal miscalculations. First, she had no idea that my marriage was not a romance. It was a contract. She did not know about Article 4 of our prenup. She did not know that her little selfie, her proof of life as the new woman, was not just an emotional betrayal, but a multi-million-dollar legal trigger. She thought she was playing with my feelings. She had no idea she was playing with my settlement. Second, and far more importantly, she fundamentally misunderstood the Caldwells. She mistook their polite coldness toward me for a lack of standards. She did not realize that old-money families like theirs are not emotional. They are tribal. They are pathologically obsessed with their public image, their reputation, and their good name. They might find me lacking, but I was still their problem. A Caldwell problem. Lila was an outsider, and by stealing a family heirloom, by flaunting it, and by dragging the Caldwell CEO into a public breach of corporate policy, she was not just insulting me, she was embarrassing them. She was threatening the one thing they hold sacred, the illusion of flawless, untouchable control. My objective shifted. This was no longer just about Ethan. He was a lost cause, a man weak enough to be manipulated by his own ego. My revenge had to be comprehensive. It had to include the woman who had openly, deliberately, and with full knowledge, attacked the symbol of my position in this family. I needed to make sure Lila Hart not only lost this battle, but lost the entire war. I did not just want her out of my marriage. I wanted her out of the company, out of the industry, and preferably out of the country. I went back to the Orion Ridge employee portal. I was no longer looking for general policy. I was digging for her. As a contract employee, she would not be in the main salary database, but she had to be in the benefits system, in the vendor directory. I found her under Contingent Workforce Management, and there it was. Her contract type H-1B visa, sponsored by Orion Ridge Holdings. A cold, beautiful smile spread across my face. Her entire right to live and work in the United States was not just tied to her job, it was tied to her good standing at that job. If she were to be laid off in a simple restructuring, she would have 60 days to find a new sponsor or leave the country. But if she were to be fired for cause for, say, a flagrant documented violation of the corporate code of conduct, that termination would be immediate. It would jeopardize her visa status instantly. I went back to my Paris folder. I looked at the PDF of the HR handbook. I unhighlighted the general section I had marked before. I found the specific addendum for contract and visa-holding employees. I highlighted a new, much more potent line. Non-compliance with the code of conduct, including policies on fraternization, may result in immediate termination of contract and will be reported to relevant government agencies as required by law. I reprinted the page. This was the final piece of the puzzle. My plan was now complete. When I placed that envelope on the table, I would not just be exposing Ethan to his parents as a philanderer, I would be exposing him as a corporate liability who had jeopardized the entire company, and I would be proving to Lila Hart, in the most public way possible, that her taunting little email had not triggered a tearful phone call. It had triggered an infidelity clause, a visa revocation, and the full, cold, corporate and familial wrath of the Caldwell dynasty. She thought she was testing a weak wife. She had no idea she was poking a bear, and that bear was not me. It was the entire, ruthless, reputation-obsessed family she was trying to join. We are back in the present. The dining room at the main estate. The air is so cold with silence. It feels brittle, as if it might shatter. My voice, when I spoke, had been perfectly, terrifyingly calm. Since we're sharing secrets, you might as well open this one. Ethan is staring at the manila envelope on his bread plate. His first instinct is annoyance, the arrogance of a man who has never been truly challenged. Chloe, don't be dramatic. It's my father's birthday. I know. I planned it, I say. Open it. He looks around the table, seeking an ally, perhaps expecting his mother to chide me for my behavior. But every eye is on him. The curiosity is a palpable, hungry thing. With a put-upon sigh, he tears the metal clasp of the envelope. The sound is obscenely loud in the quiet room. He pulls out the thick stack of papers I so carefully assembled. On top is the printout of Lila Hart's email. The photo is full color, glossy, the Eiffel Tower in the window, the silk robe, and the Caldwell blue diamond, shining like an accusation from her throat. The blood drains from Ethan's face. It happens so fast. He looks waxy, ill. He understands, instantly, that this is not an Instagram screenshot. This is a corporate email. This is evidence. Keep going, I say. My voice is clear, projecting to every corner of the table. I know you're busy, Ethan, so I put the important parts on top. Try page 3. The confirmation from the Hotel Plaza Athénée, the one you booked on the household account, by mistake. Guests 2, or maybe you'll prefer page 5, the Amex statement for the corporate black card, the one your father's company pays for. He fumbles with the papers, his hands shaking. He is trying to hide the photo, but it is too late. What is this? Eleanor, my mother-in-law, leans forward, her eyes fixed on the photograph in her son's hand. Her voice is not concerned. It is sharp. It's nothing. Mother, Ethan says, trying to shuffle the pages. Do not lie to me, Ethan, she snaps, and for the first time, I see the steel that built this family. That necklace. Is that, Ethan? That is the necklace I gave to Chloe. That is a family heirloom. Her head swivels to me, her eyes 2 chips of ice. Why does this woman have your necklace? The entire table has pivoted. The alliance, which was always them against me, has just fractured. That's an excellent question. Eleanor, I say, my voice steady. He told me he was taking it to be maintained. Instead, it appears he flew it to Paris as a gift for his assistant. His assistant. Eleanor's voice is a horrified whisper. Victor, my father-in-law, has not said a word. He has been watching this entire exchange with the cold, assessing gaze of a predator. He does not care about the necklace. He does not care about the affair. He cares about the risk. He reaches a large, manicured hand across the table. "Ethan, give me the file." It is not a request. It is a command. Ethan, a 40-year-old CEO, a man who commands boardrooms, hands the packet to his father with the trembling obedience of a child. Victor ignores the photo. He bypasses the hotel bill. His eyes go straight to the document I knew they would, the highlighted printout of the Orion Ridge Holdings Code of Conduct. His finger, blunt and powerful, traces the line about direct supervisors and subordinates. He reads the consequences. Immediate termination. His jaw tightens. This is not a domestic squabble. This is a potential shareholder lawsuit. This is a public relations catastrophe. This is a direct threat to the company. He lifts his cold eyes from the page and looks at me, and for the first time, he is not looking at the girl from Connecticut. He is looking at an adversary who has just meticulously documented his son's corporate malfeasance. I glance, just for a second, at Brooke, the woman who started this fire with her casual, cruel joke. She is chalk white, her mouth slightly open, her wineglass frozen halfway to her lips. She looks utterly horrified. She thought she was just embarrassing me, the outsider. She has just realized she helped me set a legal and financial trap for her own brother, in front of their father. She is looking at her plate, as if she wishes it would open up and swallow her. It was a schedule change. Ethan stammers, his eyes darting between his parents. He's losing control, and he knows it. Lila, she had to come, to manage the logistics. It was all last minute. I cut him off. The time for politeness is over. Was it last minute when you stole my necklace from our safe? Ethan, I ask. Was it logistics when you booked a single suite for two? Was it restructuring when you gave her the wedding gift your mother gave me, instead of, I don't know, a corporate pen? Ethan's face flushes a dark, ugly red. He glares at me, his eyes full of hate. He is calculating. He is thinking about how to destroy this. He is thinking about grabbing the papers, about dragging me out of the room, about screaming at me, about calling me crazy. I take one final step, removing his last piece of leverage. Don't bother, I say quietly. I know you're thinking you can just destroy that envelope, that you can tell everyone I'm hysterical. I turn my gaze to my mother-in-law. Eleanor, I say, and my voice is respectful, but firm. I knew Ethan would be embarrassed. I was worried these important documents might get lost. So I made a full, high-resolution scan of every single page. I look back at Ethan, holding his toxic gaze. I sent it to your mother's private email address. It's scheduled to land in her inbox in about 3 minutes. I just wanted to make sure she had a copy, for safekeeping. Checkmate. The atmosphere in the room is no longer just tense. It is arctic. The quiet, amused cruelty that started the dinner has been replaced by the stark, brutal silence of an execution. This is not a son being naughty. This is the heir apparent, the CEO, being revealed as a fool, a liar, and a profound liability, all by the quiet, decorative wife they never bothered to respect. Victor Caldwell carefully places the stack of papers on the table, tapping them into a perfectly neat pile. He smooths the top page with his palm. He folds his hands. He does not look at me. He looks at his son. When he finally speaks, his voice is devoid of all warmth, all family. It is the flat, dead voice of the boardroom. Ethan, he says, we will have a meeting about this tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. My office. You will bring your personal lawyer. The board will be notified. He pauses, his eyes flicking to the half-eaten, expensive meal on his plate. For tonight, you are finished. You are embarrassing your mother, and you are disrespecting my home. Get up from this table. Ethan stares, his mouth opening and closing. He looks at his mother, who refuses to meet his gaze. He looks at his sister, who is visibly trembling. He has no allies. Dad, please. Now, Ethan, Victor commands. his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "Leave this house. It is the most brutal dismissal I have ever seen." Ethan, flushed and shaking with a humiliation he has never known, throws his napkin onto his plate. He pushes his chair back so violently it nearly topples. He stands there for a moment, a 40-year-old man, utterly broken and isolated on his own home turf. Then, without looking at any of us, he turns and strides out of the dining room. I remain standing, watching him go, the empty manila envelope resting on his plate like a tombstone. I did not stay for dessert. After Victor delivered his sentence and Ethan stormed from the room, the dinner party simply dissolved. It was a vacuum of quiet murmurs and the awkward scraping of chairs. The guests, Ethan's aunts and cousins, suddenly found the intricate woodwork on the ceiling fascinating. No one looked at me. I stood, folded my own napkin, and placed it beside my untouched plate. "If you will all excuse me," I said to the room at large. I went upstairs. The nanny was reading in the hallway outside Ava's room. Inside, my daughter was asleep, her small body curled around her stuffed bear, oblivious. I packed a small overnight bag for both of us in under 5 minutes. My hands were perfectly steady. There was no adrenaline, no shaking. The hot rage had cooled into something hard and clear, like a sheet of ice. I did not cry. Crying was a performance of weakness, and I had just proven I was the strongest person at that table. I carried Ava, still asleep, down the grand staircase, past the dining room where the family was now huddled in hushed, urgent conversation, and out into the cold, salt-scrubbed Maine air. I strapped her into her car seat, kissed her forehead, and got behind the wheel. I headed south on the I-95, leaving the dark, imposing seaside house behind. My first and only priority was to shield my daughter from the fallout. She would not wake up in a house at war. The drive to my sister's condo in Boston was just over 90 minutes. I had put my phone on silent, face down in the passenger seat. About halfway there, the dark cabin of the SUV began to light up, a silent, flickering strobe of pure panic. When I finally pulled into my sister's garage, I looked at the screen. 10 missed calls from Ethan, 3 new text messages, 1 new email. I read the texts first. A perfect, predictable escalation. The first, sent at 8:30 p.m. Chloe. "Please, we need to talk. Not like this." The second, at 8:45 p.m. "I am so sorry. I messed up. I know I messed up. Please come back so we can fix this." The third, at 9:15 p.m. "You cannot do this to me. You are destroying everything. Call me now." Then I opened the email, sent from his phone, his fingers clearly flying in desperation. The subject line was, "This stays in the family." The email itself was a novel of self-preservation and fear. "Chloe, whatever you are feeling, I understand. I deserve it. But you cannot let your father take this to the board of directors. This is my career. This is our life. This will ruin us. I am begging you. Tell him it was a misunderstanding. Tell him you were upset. We can fix this. But you have to stop this." He still did not get it. He was not apologizing for the betrayal. He was apologizing for getting caught. He was not worried about our marriage or our daughter. He was worried about his title, his reputation, and his stock options. I took screenshots of the call log. I took screenshots of the texts. I saved the email to my Paris folder. Every panicked word was just another nail in his coffin, another piece of leverage for my lawyer. I got Ava upstairs and settled into the guest bed. Still fast asleep, I poured myself a glass of water, sat on my sister's sofa, and called Maya. It was nearly midnight. "It's done," I said. "Tell me," she said. I recounted the entire dinner, the casual cruelty from Brooke, Ethan's laugh, the envelope, the silence, Eleanor's rage over the heirloom, and finally, Victor's cold, corporate dismissal. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "My God. Chloe," Maya said, her voice filled with a kind of awed respect. "You didn't just burn the bridge. You salted the earth. So, what's next? You want me to file the divorce papers at 9 a.m. "That's what I'm calling about," I said. staring out the window at the Boston city lights. I'm looking at my notes. Infidelity, confirmed. Dissipation of marital assets, the jet, the hotel. The jewelry repair, also confirmed. Walk me through the outcome again. You get the enhanced settlement from Article 4, she said. All business. You get the Boston condo, free and clear. You get primary physical custody of Ava. We will hammer him on the moral character clause. We can claw back every dime he spent on Lila. You will be set for life. Chloe, you will never have to work again. I listened. Set for life sounded like the gilded cage I had just escaped. Maya, I said slowly, what if I don't file tomorrow? What if I don't file at all? Another pause. You're staying with him after this? I am not staying with him, I corrected, the idea leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. I am assessing my strategic options. If I file for divorce, I get a very generous exit, but I'm still out. He, eventually, recovers. The family closes ranks. He remains CEO. He finds a new, more appropriate wife. I become the angry first wife with a good settlement. He wins, in the long run. Maya was catching on. But if you don't file... If I don't file, I continued, the plan forming, cold and hard, in my mind. I have leverage. I have the threat of filing. I have the threat of the board of directors. I have the prenup. I have the evidence. And I have the public humiliation he just endured in front of his father. I don't just get a settlement. I get to rewrite the entire contract. A postnup, Maya said, her voice sharp with excitement. A postnup, I confirmed. Separate finances. The Boston condo signed over to me immediately, not in a settlement, a controlling interest in Ava's trust fund. With me as the sole signatory, I want him trapped in this marriage, completely neutered, knowing that I own his reputation. I want him to know that I can destroy his career the second he steps out of line. The old Chloe wanted to run away and cry, the Caldwell Chloe, the one they had forged in 3 years of polite fire, wanted to stay and win, as if on cue. My phone lit up with a new text message. It was not Ethan. It was an unsaved number, but the formal, clipped tone was unmistakable. It was Eleanor. Chloe, I trust you and Ava are safe. I have seen and canceled the scheduled email. It was not necessary. That necklace is meant for you. It being in that woman's possession is an unacceptable breach. Victor will handle Ethan. Please be at the city house tomorrow at 10 a.m. so we can discuss the family's path forward. I read the text twice. It was not an apology. It was not an expression of sympathy for my pain. It was a strategic alignment. Eleanor did not care about my feelings. She cared about the necklace. She cared about the heirloom. She cared about the family. Lila's gross, public transgression had made her an enemy of the Caldwell name. Ethan's stupidity had made him a liability to the Caldwell reputation. In this ugly war, I was suddenly the only one who had acted with dignity. I was the one who had handled the problem internally, who had not gone to the press, who had protected the family name even while I was blowing up my own marriage. I was no longer the outsider. I was Eleanor's ally in damage control. They needed me now. I understood. My leverage was not just over Ethan. It was over the entire Caldwell clan. This was my moment. I could demand that Ethan apologize, not just to me, but to the entire family, just as publicly as he had been dismissed. Before I went to bed, I gathered my keys in a small tote bag. I drove to the 24-hour bank branch where I had kept a small, private account since college. I unlocked my safe deposit box, one by one. I transferred the critical documents from our shared home safe. Ava's birth certificate, her social security card, my passport and hers, the original, ink-signed copy of our prenuptial agreement, my insurance policies. I was not running. I was fortifying my position. I did not text my parents. I did not badmouth Victor or Eleanor to Maya. I had learned the Caldwell rules all too well. I would not be the emotional, hysterical wife. I would be the competent, rational executive. I returned to the condo just as the sky was turning a pale, sickly gray. I sat on the sofa, my laptop open. The Paris folder glowed on the screen. I opened it and reviewed the evidence one last time: the photos, the receipts, the HR policy, the screenshots of Ethan's panicked, groveling texts. This was no longer just a record of betrayal. It was my new corporate charter. It was the foundation of my new life. I woke up on the couch in my sister's Boston condo just before the sun came up. Ava was still breathing softly in the guest room. The city was gray and quiet. I made coffee, my movements precise and automatic. There was no pain, no grief. There was only the sharp, clean hum of a strategy about to be executed. Ethan's 6 a.m. meeting with his father was about to begin. I wanted my own move to land first. I sat at my sister's small desk, opened my laptop, and at exactly 5:55 in the morning, I attached the Paris file to a new email. I did not post this on Instagram. I did not send it to a gossip blog. That would be messy, emotional, and counter to the Caldwell Code. I would not give them the satisfaction of dismissing me as a hysterical wife. I was going to use their own rulebook against them. I was going to play this like a corporate takeover. The email was addressed to Martha Jensen, the Senior Vice President of Human Resources at Orion Ridge Holdings. I also copied the company's general counsel. I did not copy Victor. I did not copy Eleanor. They would be notified through official, far more terrifying channels. The subject line was exactly as I had planned: potential HR violation involving CEO Ethan Caldwell and subordinate Lila Hart. The body of the email was brief, formal, and lethally precise. Dear Ms. Jensen, as the spouse of Ethan Caldwell, I am obligated to forward the attached documents, which appear to detail a significant breach of corporate policy and a misuse of company assets. The file contains evidence of a romantic relationship between Mr. Caldwell and his direct subordinate, Ms. Hart, a violation of Section 7.3 of the Employee Handbook, as well as receipts from the corporate American Express card used to fund this relationship in Paris, and an email from Ms. Hart from her corporate account confirming the nature of their travel. I trust the Human Resources Department and the board will conduct a thorough investigation into this serious matter of corporate governance. Sincerely, Chloe Ross Caldwell. I clicked send at exactly 6 o'clock. Just as Victor was likely pouring his first coffee to sit down with his son, the chain of events I had just set in motion was immutable. Martha Jensen, a 62-year-old woman who lived in fear of lawsuits, would have received that email and felt her blood turn to ice. It was not an anonymous tip. It was a formal complaint from the CEO's wife, complete with a full, documented brief of evidence. She was legally bound to act. The first thing HR would do is open a formal internal investigation. The second thing they would do is immediately notify the chairman of the board, my father-in-law, Victor, that the CEO of his company was officially under investigation for a morals clause violation and misuse of funds. Victor's 6 o'clock meeting had just transformed. What started as a father berating his son for embarrassing the family had just become a chairman of the board confronting a CEO who had exposed the entire corporation to massive legal and financial liability. The third thing HR would do, and this brought me a small, cold sliver of satisfaction, was neutralize the subordinate. Sometime around 9 in the morning, as Lila Hart was likely logging on, perhaps still glowing from her Paris dream, she would have received a new calendar notification, a mandatory, immediate meeting with HR. In that meeting, or perhaps via a Stark email, she would be informed, "You are placed on immediate administrative leave, pending the outcome of an internal investigation." Her email would be shut down, her key card deactivated, her company credit card frozen, and most critically, the file on her H-1B visa would now have a large, red flag on it. She was suspended. She was, effectively, gone. She had lost her income, her position, and very likely, her right to stay in the country. My phone started ringing just after I left my 10 o'clock meeting with Eleanor, which had been a cold, strategic discussion about damage control and family presentation. I saw Ethan's name and let it ring, just for a moment. Before I answered, I did not even have time to say hello. "Chloe, what did you do?" It was not a question. It was a raw, high-pitched scream of pure panic. I could hear the wind, as if he were pacing on a city street. "You're destroying me," he yelled, his voice cracking. I just got out of a 4-hour meeting with my father and the entire legal team, an HR investigation, a formal investigation. Are you trying to ruin me?" I stopped on the sidewalk, holding my coat closed against the wind. I kept my voice perfectly, maddeningly calm. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Ethan. Do not play dumb with me. You sent them a file. Martha Jensen is auditing my expenses for the last year. They're suspending Lila. They're talking about notifying the board. You did this." "I did nothing, Ethan," I said, my voice as flat and cold as the pavement. "I simply forwarded the documents that you created. I sent them the hotel bill that you booked. I sent them the credit card statement that you charged. I sent them the company policy that you violated. And I sent them the email that your mistress sent to me from her company computer. I just organized your data. I assumed, as a matter of good governance, the board would want to see it." "This is private," he shrieked. "This is our marriage. You made it a corporate matter when you used company funds. Ethan, you made it an HR matter when you slept with your subordinate. This is the consequence. You did this, not me." He was hyperventilating now, the panic rolling off him in waves. "Chloe, please, please, you have to call them. You have to retract it. Tell them you were angry, that you misunderstood. Tell them it's a mistake. They'll stop the investigation if you tell them it's a mistake." And there it was, the leverage. "No," I said. The silence on his end was stark. What do you mean? No. I mean, no, I will not be retracting my statement. Every word of it is true. The investigation will proceed. It's a serious matter." I let that hang in the air. However, I might be convinced not to have a conversation with the Boston Business Journal. I'm sure they would be fascinated to hear about the internal power struggles at Orion Ridge Holdings, a CEO, a subordinate, a family heirloom. It's a very compelling story. I could hear his breathing stop. "What do you want?" he whispered. He finally understood. "Maya Lopez, my lawyer, is sending your lawyer a document right now." I said, "It's a post-nuptial addendum. It revises our financial agreement. It gives me the Boston condo, free and clear, in my name only, effective today. It transfers a significant percentage of all marital assets acquired since our wedding into a private, separate trust that I alone control. And it gives me sole, final authority over all decisions regarding Ava's education and health. That's blackmail. Chloe, that's half of everything." "No, Ethan," I said. "That is the price of my silence. That is the price of me continuing to play the role of your wife in public. You will sign it by 5 p.m. today. If you sign it, I will remain a supportive, silent partner, and you can fight for your corporate life with your father. If you do not sign it by 5 p.m., Maya will file our divorce papers, citing Article 4 and the mountain of evidence I have, and I will take you for everything." I hung up before he could respond. I immediately called Maya. "I sent him the terms, and I'm emailing you a new file. It's the last 6 months of his corporate and personal statements. I want you to go through them, find every unexplained dinner, every hotel, every jewelry purchase. I want our file so thick that when he sees it, he doesn't even think about fighting." I got in my car. I understood men like Ethan. I understood men like Victor. They live in mortal terror of their messy, animalistic private lives sullying their pristine, calculated corporate reputations. They can survive a divorce. They cannot survive a sexual harassment investigation that hits the business pages. I had dragged his dirty secret out of the bedroom and placed it directly on the boardroom table. From now on, Ethan was not just afraid of losing his wife. He was terrified of losing his company. And that, I knew, was a far more powerful motivator. He signed the post-nuptial agreement at 4:53 p.m., just 7 minutes before the deadline. His signature a furious, jagged slash on the paper. The Boston condo was mine. The trust was in my name. I had secured my perimeter, but the HR investigation was still moving. a machine I had switched on that I had no intention of switching off, and Ethan was still trapped. He began his counteroffensive 2 days later. He did not text. He did not email. He showed up at my sister's condo. I saw him on the intercom, his hair uncharacteristically messy, his face pale and strained. I did not let him in. I told him I would meet him on the public sidewalk. He was vibrating with a new, practiced narrative. The anger was gone, replaced by a deep, weary, fraudulent sincerity. "Chloe, thank you for seeing me," he started, his voice low and earnest, as if we were the only two people in the world. I know I have no right to ask for anything. What I did was unforgivable. I see that." I waited. I said nothing. "But I need you to understand what really happened," he continued, leaning against the brick wall, trying to look like a man defeated, not a man cornered. "Lila, she's not just an assistant. She's very ambitious, very persuasive. I messed up. I let her get too close. The Paris trip was her idea. She said it would be more efficient. And the necklace." He actually managed to look ashamed. "That night, I was in the safe looking for my cufflinks, and she saw it. She asked about it. I told her it was my mother's, and later, she must have taken it. Chloe, she must have packed it. I had no idea until she was wearing it in Paris. I was shocked. I was trying to be a good mentor, to reward her for her hard work. I never, ever intended for it to go this far." It was a beautiful story. It painted him as a generous, trusting, perhaps slightly foolish boss, and her as a scheming, predatory, social climbing thief. It was disgusting, and it was his entire new strategy. "The HR investigation is destroying this family's name," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He's apoplectic, but we can fix this. I am willing to sign a formal statement for Martha Jensen, a full, detailed report. It will state that Lila acted inappropriately, that she pursued me, that she took the heirloom without my knowledge, and that she booked the travel under false pretenses." He was offering me a scapegoat. "It will put all the blame on her," he finished, looking at me with what he thought was pained honesty. "She will be terminated for cause. The investigation will be closed. This will all go away. We can finally start to heal. Please, Chloe, help me put this to rest." He believed this was what I wanted. He thought this was all about a scorned wife's jealousy, that I just wanted the other woman's head. He was offering it to me on a silver platter, so long as I helped him clean his own hands. I stared at him for a long time. "Tomorrow," I said. 10 in the morning. The Thinking Cup on Newbury Street. We can talk about it then." I turned and walked back into the building before he could respond. I arrived at 10:01. The cafe was packed. The mid-morning rush of students and shoppers providing the perfect, anonymous, public shield. He was already there, sitting at a tiny table, looking rumpled and anxious. He had not slept in days. Good. "Chloe, thank you," he said, standing up, fumbling with his chair. "Sit down, Ethan," I said, not taking my coat off. "I did not order anything. I have heard your proposal. You want to throw Lila under the bus to save your job." It's the truth," he insisted, his voice already losing its manufactured calm. "She manipulated the situation. Did she?" I reached into my purse. I did not pull out a thick file. I pulled out a single piece of paper, folded in thirds. I placed it on the table between our untouched water glasses. He stared at it. "You've seen this before," I said. "It's the original email. From Lila? To me." I tapped the paper with my finger. "I just want to review the text with you one more time. Thought you'd love how it looks in Paris." Blue heart emoji. I leaned in, my voice dropping so low he had to strain to hear me over the espresso machine. "This is not the email of a woman who borrowed a necklace. Ethan, this is not the email of a woman who is afraid of being caught. This is the email of a woman who has been promised something. This is the email of a woman who thinks she has won." I watched the color drain from his face. He had been caught in his secondary lie. the one he had spent 2 days constructing to cover the first. "She sent this to me," I continued, "because you told her I did not matter. You told her my mother-in-law hated me. You told her the necklace was meaningless. You told her I was weak. You gave her the gun. You pointed it at my head, and now you are trying to blame her for pulling the trigger." He was speechless. "So, no," I said, my voice sharp and clear. "I will not be co-signing your pathetic, cowardly little statement if you think you are going to pin this entire corporate meltdown on one 24-year-old girl, ruin her career, get her deported, and still keep me as the beautiful, silent wife you trot out for fundraisers. Then you truly have not been paying attention for the last week." I stood up. I buttoned my coat. "And one more thing," I said, looking down at his shattered expression. "I've already instructed Maya. If you or your father's lawyers try to pressure Lila into signing anything that is not 100% true, if I get even a hint that you are making her the legal scapegoat for your actions, my testimony to the HR investigators might suddenly change. I might suddenly recall, under oath, all the other times you've mentored young female subordinates. I might become a star witness for her." He looked up at me, his eyes wide with a new, dawning horror. It was a look I had never seen on him before. The realization that I, his wife, might actually ally with his mistress, just to destroy him. It was a possibility so outside his realm of understanding that it left him paralyzed. I left him there, among the coffee cups. He was drowning. And every direction he turned, the life raft was on fire. The family vice tightened that evening. His phone rang. He was likely sitting in a $1,000-a-night hotel room, drinking from the minibar, and he saw his mother's name. Eleanor, I am sure, was brief. "Ethan, your father and I have spoken. The Caldwell Coastal Education Fundraiser is this Saturday. It is our family's most important public event of the year. Your name is on the program. You will be there. You will be on that stage. And you will make a public, formal apology to Chloe, in front of our friends and our donors, for your grievous personal and professional lapse in judgment. That is the narrative. If you do not, or if Chloe is not standing by your side, your father will take the podium instead and announce your immediate, indefinite leave of absence from Orion Ridge. You have until Saturday to convince your wife to save you." His call to me came an hour later. The rage was gone. The fake sincerity was gone. All that was left was the raw, pleading desperation of a cornered animal. "Chloe, please," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Please, my mother, my father, they're using the fundraiser. They're going to destroy me in public. Please, let's keep this in the family. We can handle this privately. Whatever you want. Another check. The house in Maine. Just, please, do not let this happen. Tell me what I have to do." I stood in my sister's quiet apartment, looking out at the city, a city that now felt like mine. "You had a family issue, Ethan," I said, my voice cold and final. "You had a marital issue, but you took your mother's wedding gift to me, an heirloom, and you gave it to an employee. You used company money to fly her to another continent. This stopped being in the family the second you put that necklace on her." I hung up. He was completely trapped. His company, his family, and his wife. He had no allies. He had no leverage. He had no control over anything. And Saturday was just 3 days away. The grand ballroom of the Intercontinental in Boston was suffocating. It was the annual fundraiser for the Caldwell for Coastal Education Foundation, the absolute pinnacle of the family's social calendar. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and money. Local photographers' flashbulbs popped at the entrance, and I could see at least 3 prominent Boston social bloggers filming the crowd, their faces lit by the blue glow of their phones. Every major donor, every old money ally, every person whose opinion the Caldwells cultivated, was in this room, dressed in silks and tuxedos, their faces cold and assessing. I had arrived alone, my heels clicking on the marble floor. I wore a column gown in a dark, severe emerald. I had already moved back into the Boston condo. It was mine now. The original plan for this evening, the one finalized months ago, was for Ethan to give the keynote speech, a 10-minute address on the family's commitment to the environment. I was scheduled to join him on stage at the end, holding his hand, a tangible portrait of the happy, successful, next generation of Caldwell leadership. That plan was now in ashes. I saw him near the stage, huddled with Victor and Eleanor. He looked like a ghost. His suit, though perfectly tailored, seemed to hang off him. He had lost weight in a week. The event coordinator, a tense woman with a headset, approached them. "Mr. Caldwell, we are ready for you. 2 minutes." Victor put a hand on his son's shoulder, not in comfort, but for leverage. He leaned in, his voice a low, brutal whisper that I was just close enough to catch. "This is it, Ethan. You have one chance. You will walk onto that stage. You will read the statement we prepared, and you will apologize to your wife. You will do it now, in front of everyone, or I will walk onto that stage and announce your immediate and permanent removal from Orion Ridge in light of the ongoing internal investigation. The choice is yours. Either way, this family will be protected." Ethan looked, for a fleeting second, at his mother. Eleanor stared past him, her face a mask of disappointment. He was utterly, completely alone, cornered by his own family. He nodded, a jerky, broken movement. He walked onto the brightly lit stage and tapped the microphone. The room, which had been buzzing with polite conversation, fell silent. "Good evening," Ethan began, his voice hoarse, rattling with feedback. Before we begin the program, I need to make a personal and professional statement." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. This was not on the schedule. The bloggers raised their phones. Through a profound lapse in my own judgment, I have failed in my duties as a leader of my company and as a husband. The silence in the room was now absolute. It was a vacuum. People were frozen, champagne flutes halfway to their mouths. "I used my position and company resources to pursue an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate employee," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd, unable to land on anyone. "And in doing so, I violated the trust of my family. I took a sacred family heirloom, and I treated it with a disrespect that is indefensible." He finally looked at me, standing near the back wall. His eyes were red-rimmed, desperate. "And I have caused deep, unforgivable humiliation to my wife, Chloe, a woman who has shown this family nothing but loyalty and grace, even when we did not make it easy for her." He had done it. He had confessed. He had publicly handed me all the power, just to save himself from total annihilation. The entire room, 300 pairs of eyes, swiveled to me. They were waiting. They expected tears. They expected me to run to the stage, to forgive him, to save them all from this excruciating awkwardness. I did not move. I let the silence stretch, letting him hang there, exposed and broken under the spotlight. Then, I walked forward, not to the stage, but to the front row. Where Victor and Eleanor sat, I stood, my back to Ethan, and faced the room. My voice was clear, calm, and did not require a microphone. "I accept my husband's apology," I said. A collective sigh of relief began to fill the ballroom. I held up one hand. "But let me be clear. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. From this moment forward, all financial matters relating to our marriage will be managed exclusively by myself and my attorneys. This is not a negotiation." You could have heard a pin drop on the thick carpet. This was not a reconciliation. This was a public sentencing. "And," I added, turning my head just enough to look at the man on the stage, "the necklace will be returned, tonight." Ethan was a ghost. And then, Eleanor Caldwell stood up. She was the picture of matriarchal steel. She did not look at her son. She walked past him, took the microphone from the podium, and faced the audience. "My son," she said, her voice amplified, brittle as ice, "is a fool. He has embarrassed this family. He has embarrassed his wife, and he has disgraced an heirloom. She turned, and my breath caught. In her hand was the dark velvet box. She walked off the stage, directly to me. She did not speak. She simply opened the box, the Caldwell blue diamond, retrieved from whatever corporate lackey Victor had sent to get it, shone under the intense lights of the gala, in front of the local press, the bloggers, and the entire Boston elite. Eleanor Caldwell took the necklace from its box. With cold, steady hands, she unfastened the clasp, pulled back my hair, and secured the diamond around my neck. It was not a gift. It was a coronation. It was a symbolic transfer of power. The family was not saving their son. They were saving their reputation, and they had chosen me the stable, strong, rational outsider as the new face of it. The fallout was immediate. The next day, an internal memo was leaked from Orion Ridge Holdings. It stated, in cold corporate language, that Ethan Caldwell will be stepping back from his day-to-day CEO duties, effective immediately, to avoid any potential conflict of interest during a comprehensive internal review. He was not fired. He was shelved. He was rendered powerless. Lila Hart received her official termination papers that same day. Her visa was revoked. Her ambitious play had cost her everything. I sent her a single text from a blocked number, just before I deleted her from my life entirely. Next time you use a wife's property to climb, make sure the wife is as weak as you think she is. It was not revenge. It was a lesson. Ethan understood the new rules. He was still my husband, but he was a tenant in my life. He lived in the Boston condo, my condo. He would only regain his power if I allowed it. The days of him and his family setting the terms were over. I left the fundraiser, not on his arm, but alone. I had not won back my husband. I had never wanted to. I had won back my name. I had restructured my marriage into a business deal I controlled. I had reclaimed my dignity. As I stepped out into the cold Boston air, the cameras flashing, I put my hand to my throat. The Caldwell blue diamond was heavy and cold against my skin. It had taken a trip to Paris, served as the primary evidence in a public execution, and was now, finally, exactly where it belonged. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I am so curious to know where you are listening from, so please comment below, share your thoughts, and let's connect. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories, like this video, and give us an extra boost by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.